Good evening. My name is Onika Williams, and I am chair of the National Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. Thank you for joining us for NBA YLD Pathways to Bar Leadership Roadshow, featuring our very own NBA Vice President, Lamont Bailey. The National Bar Association was founded in 1925 and is the nation's oldest and largest national network of predominantly African-American attorneys and judges. The YLD is the home of the young lawyer within the NBA and represents the interests of young Black attorneys under the age of 40 years old or originally admitted to practice within the past 10 years, whichever is more inclusive. This year's NBA YLD theme, 2020 and Beyond, recognizing the importance of the young lawyer, has been seen throughout 7 programmatic areas. 1, election protection, voter registration, and education. 2, COVID-19 recovery efforts. 3, efforts to eliminate police brutality. 4, 2020 census efforts and 2021 redistricting efforts. 5, professional and skills development. 6, mental health and wellness. And 7, pipeline programs and mentorship opportunities. The Pathways to Bar Leadership Roadshow is one of our several pipeline programs to help our members learn about the larger bar and our national officers. So tonight, as mentioned, we have Vice President of Sections and Divisions, Lamont Bailey. So let's dive right in. Vice President Bailey, can you tell us about your background and what made you apply to law school?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, thank you for this opportunity to speak to the YLD and the Greater National Bar Association. So your question was, why did I go to law school?
Yes, and your background.
My background, okay. I graduate of some orange person. I graduated from Syracuse University. I went to Cornell Law School, so I'm also a big red. My father was a lawyer, active member of the National Bar Association. And when I graduated and I passed the bar, we became partners. So that's where Bailey and Bailey comes from. My father was the other Bailey till he passed away 22 years ago. I've always known from the time I can remember that I wanted to be a lawyer. My father never encouraged me to be a lawyer, but it's just something that I just wanted to do since I was a toddler, I guess. So when I went to Syracuse, I had no idea what to major in. I just knew I wanted to go to law school. Fortunately, Syracuse had a program called 430s, and it was 30 credits arts and science, 30 credits an elective, 30 credits in a professional school, and professional meaning like the communication school, the fine arts, and 30 credits of electives. So I was able to basically put together my own major and minor. I majored in speech communication and minored in political science. And then I applied to law school, and I went to law school, and and then it's all she wrote. So that's why I wanted to be a lawyer. It's just something that I always, from the time I was little, and I've been in private practice ever since. I did have some internships in some big Wall Street law firms when I was in college and in law school, but I've always worked for myself.
So speaking of law school, what did you like most about law school and what did you least like about law school?
I think I had a unique experience when I was in law school because I was extremely disciplined. Other people would be messing around after class. I'd study, I'd do my studies, and usually by 8, 9 o'clock the latest, I was done.
Oh, you were good.
That's when I was starting. Right, exactly. So I was extremely disciplined when I was in law school. One of the things I liked about law school had nothing to do with law school was Ithaca is a fantastic place, a beautiful campus to be in. And so that's one of the things I liked about our law school. Um, I mean, there's not much to like about law school. I did love my Balsa friends. I was active in Balsa. I was active also in regional Balsa. I was an officer. I was treasurer, and I was also active in national Balsa. I think I attended all of the conventions, and was even politically active in getting with as far as the elections for the national president, the Balsa. And I remember one time as treasurer, as a law school, and you know how our folks can be. We had a regional conference and everybody didn't register. So here comes the hotel saying, well, you guys got to pay for your banquet. So the president and I met and we said, hey man, we gotta put this on our own personal credit cards. And sure enough, I mean, we did. And sure enough, you know, everybody registers late and everything went off without a hiccup. Cornell was very supportive of Balsa. They paid for my travel and my activities. When I was in law school in the late 80s, there was an issue about exclusivity in Balsa. I don't want to get sidetracked. Exclusivity in Balsa. Some members of Balsa felt we should be exclusively African American. Others felt we should be open up to all. And a lot of schools backed off their sponsorship or of the students going to Balsa because of the policies at that time. But Cornell was very supportive of not only me, but a couple other people in our Balsa activities. So that's one of the good things about law school. What I didn't like in about law school was the law. And what I realized, it took me maybe second year, that law is really about the power structure and keeping the power structure in power. And whether it's property, I really realized it in when I took income taxation. I realized that the laws are made to keep the power structure in power. They're not really made for what I call regular people. And that's what I found most distressing. So that's what I didn't like about law school, was really the law. And I'll end there for now.
But you like the law now.
I love the law. There's nothing else that I could see myself doing. I love helping people. I mean, the law, no matter what your area, is about helping people, whether it's a corporate client or a neighborhood client or a family member, which you try and avoid. It's about helping people and helping people realize their dreams, people starting new businesses, helping them with their problems so that they stay in business. And one of the things that we have as lawyers is we have a way of sort of finding ways to get things done. And somebody comes to you with a problem, and you find a way to make it work most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. And I get fulfillment out of that, being able to help people, whether it's in their personal lives, getting their family affairs in order, or with their businesses, or buying their homes. Nothing like a new homeowner to me, because I think that's where the wealth is for our community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We already have some questions coming in. So NBA YLD's public relations co-chair and a past GWAC president, Alicia McNeil, says, Vice President Bailey, what was the value that you saw in participating in Balsa? Additionally, what do you believe you gained from participating in Balsa?
One of the things was networking, but the most, those you don't know, Cornell is not a law school, not in New York City. It's upstate New York in Ithaca. It's extremely isolated up there. Mm-hmm. And my class had the largest number of African American students at the time. And then two didn't really affiliate with also, let's put it that way. So it was something like what I get out of being in the National Bar Association. It's being around other lawyers of color who have similar experiences that you can commiserate with. You realize that it's not you, and it's just comfort being around your own. That was the main thing. Also, was just helping out. We had I don't remember his name now, but when I was a 1L, we had a very radical national boss president, and he was kind of off the chains. And so it was interesting dealing with all types of people with all types of views on the best way to move our people forward.
Yeah. Thank you. We got another question while you were speaking. So this is from Alexandria Bailey.
Uh-oh. All right, cousin.
In the past year, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay. In the past year, while being in this pandemic and the unfortunate amount of unprecedented deaths, have you seen a surge of people realizing they need wills and testaments done? What is the damage of not having a will and testament in your experience?
Well, you know, the pandemic, the COVID-19 can hit people fast. And, you know, you could be fine one day and almost in a coma the next day. And so people can't wait to the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
You really need, and we as a people don't really plan until it's too late. You know, oh, Mr. Bailey, mama's got to go in a nursing home tomorrow. Can you get the deed out of her name? I'm like, well, you know, it's kind of late for that. A lot of times, I don't know whether it's we don't think we're going to pass away, but we put off until tomorrow, and then it's too late. So I stress to people the need for estate planning, and a lot of people think they don't have much, but it's not about having much. First, you can hit the lottery tomorrow, right, and get $10 million, and then what? But you also need to provide for your children if you have children. You want to make sure that you got your I don't want to get into a wills and estates planning thing, but it's definitely a need for persons to properly estate plan. And it's getting better now, but it's still not where it should be, especially in our community. Especially in our community.
Yes. And I should say we've had a program every night this week. We have 2 more to go. And we did acknowledge the grim milestone that the United States reached on Monday of over 500,000 souls lost in the United States alone to the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
So another question for you is for the law students in the room, going back to being what you liked most and least about law school. What advice do you have for law students?
Don't get discouraged. Law school can be extremely challenging. I don't know what it's like now. And when I went to law school over 30-something years ago. But the racism was there when I was in law school. Whether it's not getting called on in class, that can be frustrating because you're busting your butt every day to study and be prepared. And then it's too much, you know, you never get called on. So don't get discouraged is the number one thing I would say, and keep your eye on your ultimate goal. Second, I would advise, do not be afraid to talk to your professors. If your professors have, what is it called, open time or office time,
mm-hmm.
take advantage of it, because that could be the difference in a half a grade point between a B and a B plus or a B and a B minus, where the law professor may say, you know what, this person didn't grade too well, but he or she's been talking to me. I know they understand the material, mm-hmm. because of our conversations that we had. So that's the second thing I would encourage is take advantage of the office hours. Third, if there is a practice component, law school, we had a legal aid clinic. Take some practical courses where you get some practical experience. That is key. And then, well, the last thing they don't teach you is the business of the law. And try and find a mentor. If you decide, well, even if you're going to corporate practice, it's a business too. You know, when you go into a law firm, you're trying to be partner, you got to have your book of business. And so it's also, no matter what area you do, unless you go into government, is or not for profit, even that sometimes you have to generate funds. It's a business. So those are the things that I would stress to law students.
Thank you. Okay, you have questions just pouring in. So
Okay.
maybe similar to a question I was going to ask from Stephanie Sabino. What advice would you give your young self at the beginning of your career? What do you wish you had known then that you know now?
The business of the business of the law. My dad was my mentor, and he was my guide. And I think I was blessed because my dad had confidence in me and let me do things the way I wanted to do. Now, if I was way out of line or way off base, he'd reel me in. And that really allowed me, I think, to grow as an attorney. But, you know, he did most of the management, the business part of the office. And I'm old school. And I guess I got it from him. I'm more about the service to the community than I am about making the dollar. And I encourage when I see other people opening their practice, I said, look, it's a business. I tell them, don't let your clients steal money out of your children's mouths, steal food out of your children's mouths. And what I mean about that is, no, you got to stick to your guns. You got to set your fee structure and stick to your guns. And a lot of lawyers get in trouble because somebody walks in the door, it's the end of the month, and they need some money, and they take the case that they have no business taking. Mm. They don't want to deal with the case, so it leads to disciplinary issues with the grievance committees because you're not paying attention to it. It's just, so it takes discipline to stick to your guns, to stick to your fee schedule, and don't let people take advantage of you. We don't sell cars. We don't have anything concrete to sell. So our time is what people are buying. So if I got to work on a case and I got to spend 5 hours on it and I'm not getting paid, I don't feel good about it, right? Because I think somebody's taking advantage of me, and that's 5 hours that I'm not devoting to somebody else who is paying me. So I'm not one about the dollars. If people know me, they know I'm not about just getting the money. I'm about servicing the community. But I want the younger lawyers to not be like me.
And you just touched on this. One of the attendees asked, why did you decide to stick with private practice and not go the corporate route?
I felt it was the best way. Like I said, I'm community oriented. I've been involved in community organizations since high school. And I'm about the community. My office is in the community. I just felt that is where I felt that the community deserves great lawyers. And I consider myself to be a great lawyer and an asset to the community. And that's how I support my community. And I believe that if you support the community, they will support you.
Thank you. So, and you may have touched on this as well. So once you become a young lawyer, as a young lawyer, how did you set yourself apart from others?
One of the things, being in private practice, is I got involved in a lot of organizations. If you're trying to build your client base as a community-based practitioner, that's the best way to build your practice. Join some boards, but join boards that you're interested in. And it's going to be involved in. Don't just sign and put your name on something and then walk away, because if something goes south, you're the lawyer on the board and somebody's going to come after you. So I was extremely involved in community organizations. That's how I built my practice, besides the client base that I inherited from my father. But that's how I expanded the firm and our client base. Hope I answered the question.
Yes. So you've mentioned the organizations that you've been a part of, and you're here with us tonight, which is one of our pipeline programs. Why are you so passionate about mentorship of and pipeline programs for law students and young lawyers?
Again, it's in my DNA. I mean, I mentor my adversaries. If I have a young lawyer and we're on the other side and then after it's over, I'll speak to the lawyer and say, look, I got a suggestion for you. You can take it for whatever way you want, but I think boom, 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 boom. Or I noticed something about your practice. I'm not critical, but I mentor my adversaries. I mentor anybody who wants to learn. I'm willing to mentor to, and it's what my father's contemporaries they did. So my father did to me, and it's just in my DNA. The more lawyers, we are the leaders. We are I hate to say it, the top 10% in our communities. And if we don't lead, our people are basically in trouble. So if anybody wants to pursue a career in the law, no matter what the area, I'm all for supporting them and helping them achieve that goal, because I know as a people, that's the best way for us to progress.
Thank you. And you may have seen me, Alicia, if you get the chance, can you please share with the audience, just drop it in the chat. We have 2 more programs coming up this week. So back to what you were saying about being involved with the organizations, your path in the NBA. So you're one of our national vice presidents. How did you get involved with the NBA, and how did you get to your current position as vice president of sections and divisions?
Okay. I've been involved with the NBA since I was 8 years old. I'm an NBA baby, I guess. My father used to bring us to the conventions. Yeah. So I grew up in the NBA. I was an NBA member when I was in law school. I joined the National Bar Association. I attended conventions sporadically since I graduated law school. More recently, every convention that I've attended. I got involved in leadership under President Kevin Judd.
Who is here with us tonight, past President Kevin Judd.
I was general counsel during his presidency. And that might have been the first year or the second year that the general counsel did not have a vote. So I decided I wanted to have a voice. So I ran for board member at large and got elected board member at large for 2 years, a 2-year term. And then I decided I wanted greater involvement, and then I ran for vice president. So I've been in leadership for the past, this is my 5th year.
So I will say, Vice President Bailey, we have monthly meetings. So if you are familiar with YLD, we have e-board meetings, we have events, but the chair also attends a monthly meeting with the other chairs of the organization with sections and divisions. So Vice President Bailey, you mentioned you were a board member at large and now you're a vice president. What is the difference between those? What is the board member at large position on the NBA's board of governors?
The board member at large, there's 6 positions, 3 are elected each year. And the board is made up of some, I believe it's 52 or 53 persons. Mm-hmm. And you have the officers, which is the president-elect, the 4 vice presidents, the secretary, and the treasurer. Those are the officers. Then you have 6 board members who are elected by everybody in the organization. That's why they call board members at large. The rest of the board members are made up of past presidents, the president of the NABOSA, the chair of the National Bar Institute, and the 5 most recent past presidents. So as far as electeds, the officers and the 6 are the actual elected members to the Board of Governors.
And I should say of the current Board of Governors, there are 2 past YLD chairs, past chair Chanel Autry and past chair Keela Crane. And of the big board's officers, we have several YLD members. There's immediate past chair Nick Austin, who is treasurer, secretary Ashley Upkins, and Lenita Baker, who is another vice president over affiliates, regions and affiliates, is technically still YLD. And we claim you, Vice President Bailey, as forever YLD. So
I'm YLD. I'm YLD in my heart.
So we have a question about, while we're talking about NBA and being involved in the NBA, we have a question from Brianna Golden, who is one of our inaugural NBA YLD ambassadors. And she asked 2 questions. For those of us who are just learning about putting ourselves out there as young professionals, how do you take advantage of networking opportunities, especially since we are in our new normal?
Yeah, that's a good question with the new normal. That's a very good question because it's hard to network. You know, and this is not a stock answer. The National Bar Association is an excellent start because through your YLD meetings or through your other section division meetings, you get to meet other people. I know if somebody calls me, they got something going on in South Carolina, they got a piece of property they're trying to sell or air property, or my mama died or whatever, I can typically find an NBA member that can handle that. So I would start with the National Bar Association, getting involved in the subpart. So whatever area of law you practice, there is a section that should be able to help you in your growth. And you will be exposed to other lawyers. Some may be local, others may be national. You learn a lot. And you can always make a connection. You have an issue, you have a problem, you can call somebody in the subpart or in your section and say, hey, I got this issue. What do you think? He says, no, I don't know, but I know somebody in New York. I'm from New York. I know somebody in New York you can call, just mention my name, and boom, boom, boom. And you never know that that person that you're calling may be in a position to say, look, I got some excess business, or I'm looking to hire somebody, or it's that sort of networking that can happen, because the in-person passing out the business cards
Right.
right now, it's not happening.
Right.
So I guess that may be the only way to get involved in the bar association, the National Bar Association, your local bar association. Um, you can also, depends on what area of practice you are, is sign up for some of the referrals from your local judges. Judges have a position to appoint receivers, to appoint referees. Um, get on those lists as well.
Thank you. And Brianna had a follow-up question. Also, how do you feel that young lawyers can continue to make meaningful and consistent relationships in bar associations?
Well, now you get to a philosophical question. I'll start with build a relationship amongst yourselves within the YLD, and again within your particular section if you're involved in a section. As with the country, there's sort of a generational divide between, I'm a boomer, a baby boomer, and our days are numbered. Millennials are the majority right now, but there's I believe in fresh blood and new ideas. So I'm always open. I never discourage anybody who's got a new idea. I never forget in my church, just years ago, the youth choir wanted to play drums. And the deacons, they weren't having drums in a church. They just, but if that's what's going to keep the young people involved in the church, what's wrong with drums? You do drums in the Bible. I mean, so I'm always open to young people doing, because I'm sure when I was younger, you know, things that I wanted to do that the older generation say, hey man, that's crazy. And each generation has, to me, has the right to blaze their own paths, and that's the only way you're going to progress. Because if we keep things the same, nothing's ever going to change, and change only comes when you get, I don't want to call young lawyers agitators, but you need agitation, you need a push, and the push comes from the youth, from the younger lawyers who've got different ideas, different ways of looking at things. You know what? And we all talk about diversity, right? We talk about diversity in the workplace. We need diversity amongst the ages as well, because the more diverse the pool, the better the thoughts and the ideas, and the better the progress of our people.
Thank you. Following up on that, what are some of the specific national concerns that the NBA is addressing now, and how are you part of these efforts? So I know that Madam President has the 3 pandemics affecting our community: election suppression, COVID-19, and police brutality. And so do you have any additional concerns that you would think that the NBA needs to be involved in, and how are you taking part?
I think the number one is election protection. And it happens to our people when we learn the rules and use the rules, they change the rules. And they're doing it now. Georgia's trying to change their voting rules, and it's happening in typically red states all across the country, trying to restrict the right to vote. And I think that's our number one battle, because as we can see, our vote is our power. And you realize the power that we have in our vote because they constantly try and take it away from us. If our votes were worthless, they wouldn't bother trying to take the votes away from us. So our vote is our power. And we're going to have to stay vigilant. We're going to have to, if these laws get passed, and most of them are in states with Republican majority legislatures, some of them super majority, We got to learn the rules, educate the community, and use 2020's election as a guideline, as a rationale for continued voting. Look what we did. Look what our people did this. Our people put in Biden and Harris. Look what we did with our votes. And look what we're finally, it appears, getting returns on our support. So we have to continue it. And so I think that's the, that's would be my main focus for the National Bar Association. Not discounting the others, but I think that's the most, if you put it in a pyramid, I think it would be at the top.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I will say we are nonpartisan, but I also want to shout out NBA YLD's election protection chair who's here, Ashley Lee. She led YLD's election protection efforts and helped with the big bar. So all of the work that we did with the election protection hotline, and she's actually located in Georgia. So she was on the ground in Georgia with the votercades and with Transformative Justice Coalition. We wrote postcards, we phone banked. And so YLD has especially helped with election protection this past year.
Well, YLD is doing a fantastic job this bar year, as they typically do every year. And again, the energy, the enthusiasm of the YLD is just, it's awesome. It's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you. And to follow up on this, what would you say the role of the lawyer is in today's society? We just spoke about, election protection. What do you view our role in society?
I will talk about our role as an African American or an attorney of color, because our burden is different than, at least I believe is different than white lawyers, because we have some sort of social responsibility to uplift our community and to fight racism and seek equal justice and equal rights in our community. So your number one job is to feed your family, yourself and your family. That's number one. Number two, I believe that you owe something to the community. And I say more than writing a check. So if you're blessed and you got a nice job and you can write it, no. I think your time is just as important, because you don't realize who's watching you. You go to a local high school and let's just say what do you call it? A job, not a job, I slipped my mind the term, but when you go into school, you talk about your profession.
Right.
And you know, even if it's a second grade or a third grader, you'd be surprised in 20 years that third grader would say, you know what? I was in third grade, some lawyer came in my classroom and I saw him or her and I said, you know what? I'm going to be a lawyer. So you never know who's watching you and who you're influencing. And so that's why I'm saying it's more than just writing a check. If you're able to write a check, it's also, and it can be just, like I said, the smallest thing. Career conference or whatever it's called in elementary, junior high school, even high school, career conference, whatever it's called. Yeah. Talking about your profession, letting people in the community see that there are Black lawyers and we're doing things. So I think it's important that we give back to the community and always fight for your people and your rights. And don't be afraid to speak up and to speak out and to speak truth to power, because they expect it. And they respect us more when we do it than when we don't. So it's important that you're in a situation, If you're the only African American on a board of directors of 20 people, and you see something, you got to speak up. You have to speak up. Don't go along and get along. Speak up, because you, number one, you'll get the respect, and number one, you're doing the right thing, and number two, you'll get the respect of your colleagues.
Thank you. So we have 2 questions from the audience. So please feel free to send any last questions that you may have. Alexandria, I'm gonna save your question for the final one. And so we have another question from Alicia McNeil. When thinking about where you wanted your career to go, what considerations did you have, and what advice can you give those trying to map their 1, 3, and 5-year plans, professional plans?
Find your passion in the law. And this is difficult for the young lawyer, because most of you are coming out with huge student loan burdens. So you may have to take a position that you don't want to, or go into an area that you don't want to, because you got these loans that you got to repay. But find your passion, and experiment. Even if you go into a big firm and you go into mergers and acquisitions, try and rotate into another practice area. See what you like. And once you find your passion, you'll succeed in it, because it's not a burden to you, it's a mission. And it'll come across when you're talking to your clients. It'll come across in your presentations. It'll come across if you're trying a case in your trials, that you enjoy what you do. And because you come across as enjoying what you do, you know what you do, and you can advocate much better because you're within your passion. So I would say is to find your passion, and to once you find your passion, to just dive right into it.
Thank you. And so back to Alexandria's question. What are your thoughts on this quote from MLK? One who breaks an unjust law that his conscience tells him is unjust, and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice, is in reality expressing the highest respect for law. How does the role of activism play in being a lawyer? Do you believe that there's any possibilities for laws to change in this lifetime?
One of the problems or burdens of being a member of the bar is your arrest. Right. And so if I'm not a lawyer, most definitely. But if I'm a lawyer, I feel that having my license is the best way that I can serve my people. And if I lose my license, I can't feed my family. Well, I can't. I mean, you know what I mean? You worry about feeding your family, and you're not maybe able to use the skills that you have being a lawyer and being a lawyer and practicing law. So I think different people have different roles in the struggle. Okay, you have the grassroots, and you need the grassroots. You need the grassroots. Then you have the academics, and I'm going from one extreme to the other. You need the academics. You need the people who are willing to march across Brooklyn Bridge and get arrested. Mm-hmm. But you also need the people who can walk into the courtroom and get you out of jail. Right. So years ago, I was general counsel to my local NAACP branch, and we were marching the local businesses wanted a fair share of what my office is at Kennedy Airport.
Mhm.
And Kennedy was doing a massive project, construction project, and the neighborhood, the African American businesses, MWBEs, were not getting the business. They decided to shut down the Van Wyck Expressway. For those of you who don't know New York, the Van Wyck Expressway is always backed up. But it's basically the only way to get to JFK. They did with 7 or 8 trucks, blocked the airport, shut it down, affected flights all across the country because the plane, whatever it was with the schedule, planes couldn't land or whatever it was, and it affected all across the country.
Mhm.
Had the grassroots out there doing their thing, but then you need the lawyers on standby to deal with the arrests. So that's what I mean. Everybody has a role to play. As the lawyers, we have to watch it because we can't be as activists as we may want to be because we have to protect our law license.
Right. Everybody has a role. So any last questions? If you have them, please put them in the chat. We do have some upcoming events. We have a Setting the Bar vision board party tomorrow that we've been invited to by our very own wellness chair, Lakeisha Randall. We will put that information in the chat. We also have tomorrow night, we will have an NBA YLD Power Hour with Patricia Brown Holmes. And she was a special prosecutor in Laquan McDonald's shooting. So please come out to that. She also is the first African-American woman to lead and have her name on the door of a major law firm that was not woman or minority owned. And last but not least is this on Friday, we will be hosting past president and civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump for a virtual book meet and greet for his new book, which I have across the way, about called Open Season. And this is the information for that. And I am not seeing any additional questions. So Vice President Bailey, do you have any closing remarks for us?
I just want to congratulate you, Madam Chair, and your leadership team. Again, you guys are doing a fantastic job. The energy, the programming, the new thoughts and new ideas that you're bringing to the bar. And you are taking us to the HNL. That's from, I forgot, Keenan, one of them, Beal. Whole nother level. HNL. You guys are taking the NBA to the HNL. And it really warms my heart to see what's happening with the YLD.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you again to all of the audience. Special thanks. I see past Chair Keela Crane, who is one of the board members at large that we mentioned earlier. And of course, our very own past president, Kevin Judd. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Again, join us for the rest of the events this week and follow us on social media. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Okay.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
night.